chaotic. It's hard to actually figure out what's what, but it's becoming clearer. It's becoming clearer and clearer. But
we are now living in the aftermath of Mopreme bombshell interviews. The kind of bombshell that doesn't just rattle the cage, but threatens to rip it open altogether. Picture it. Shakur's brother, no longer content to let the whispers fade, sitting across from Piers Morgan and tossing the accusation of the century directly at Sean Diddy Combs. Forget the polite hedging, the maybe, maybe not. Mopreme, tired, haunted, but uncowed, declares on international television that he believes Diddy's denials don't hold water, not 100%. And as he says it, his voice has that mixture of challenge and fatigue that only comes from decades spent staring down an industry that treats secrets like currency and justice like a cruel joke. He says, the truth is still yet to come out, so we gonna see. It's a statement that hangs heavy, more prophecy than soundbite.
the boy Puffy called me though. Puffy called me back in the day. He called me, he was like, I just want you to know I ain't have nothing to do with your brothers.
But let's not get lost in the late-night drama of TV interviews. Something seismic shifted the moment Mopreme spoke out. We can feel it. Insiders close to the family claim this is not just another round of he said, she said. It's a public warning shot. Mopreme is done playing nice. He's done waiting for law enforcement to catch up, done watching the world treat Shakur's legacy like a cold case best left to the podcast circuit. His suspicion of Diddy's involvement has always simmered beneath the surface. But now, in 2025, with Diddy finally locked away on a tangle of trafficking and racketeering charges, Mopreme's gloves are off. He's not only doubling down, he's letting the world know his family has hired the kind of attorney whose phone calls make prosecutors break into a sweat. That's right, Alex Spiro, the guy who's made a career out of rescuing celebrities from the jaws of the system, is now digging into the unsolved puzzle of Shakur's last night alive.
I mean, that's Puffy's homie. You know what I mean? They have a relationship. They're friendly. They know each other.
If you think this is just family pain boiling over, think again. The story doesn't stop with TV ratings and viral clips. It's what happened next that truly drags us into the nightmare. Because the moment Mopreme went public, something in the air shifted. Friends say he's become paranoid, jumpy, more isolated. He talks about being followed, about shadowy cars on his street, about phone calls that hang up as soon as he answers. Those close to him say Mopreme has started traveling with his own crew. Thug life guys, as he puts it, not because he's playing the part, but because he's been warned that speaking Diddy's name in this context is like running through a lightning storm with a copper rod in your hand. And now, as the headlines quietly move from rumor to reported fact, we're learning that Diddy's goons have begun circling Mopreme himself. Is this paranoia? Maybe, if you trust the industry suits and washed-up PR flacks desperate to play down the story. But the whispers from the street, from the recording studios, from the back rooms where witness intimidation is a full-time gig, they all say the same thing. Diddy, even with the cell doors slamming behind him, is not a man whose power ends at the edge of a prison jumpsuit. The real story isn't just that he's in custody. It's the chilling sense that the web he spun on the outside is still working overtime to protect the man at its center.
As far as, is he going to turn people in? Is he going to cooperate? If the federal government wants him to cooperate and they're going to cut his time, because right now he's looking at 15 to life. With all the charges he had to, he won't get out until 70 years old. He about 70. That's when they start talking about letting him come to a halfway house.
There's real fear now. Mopreme's close friends say he's more than just spooked. He's on high alert, changing hotels, canceling meetings, refusing to appear without security. In recent interviews, the lines around his eyes seem deeper, the pauses between his words more telling. At one point, he hints that threats have been made not in the open, but in the coded language of the street. A car idling too long outside his house, a package left on his porch with no return address, a warning from an old acquaintance that maybe he should let the past rest. The unspoken message is crystal clear. Diddy's reach extends past the courthouse, past the iron bars, all the way into the daily lives of those who challenge his narrative. We have to ask, how is this possible? How does a man with a federal indictment and a denied bail request still inspire such devotion or fear from loyalists willing to do his bidding on the outside? That's where the rumors get even darker. According to 3 industry veterans, guys who worked the security details, booked the VIP lounges, saw what most of us never will, there's talk of a prison hit squad. We're not talking about movie script nonsense, but a cold, calculated plan, allegedly orchestrated from Diddy's jail cell, designed to send a message to anyone who thinks of testifying or digging deeper. One source claims the plan is simple: eliminate Mopreme before he can spark a new investigation, before Spiro and his team can dig up evidence that stayed buried for almost 30 years. The idea that Diddy can still call shots from a correctional facility isn't just the stuff of urban legend. It's being whispered in hushed voices from Brooklyn to Beverly Hills, fueling a sense of dread that justice may never be served unless someone somewhere is willing to risk everything.
It sort of seems like, they're trying to minimalize it to just gain.
Could this really be happening? Could a man awaiting trial for some of the ugliest charges in modern showbiz history, already compared to the likes of R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein by more than one legal analyst, still hold such sway over the streets? The tabloids used to laugh off these stories, until federal agents raided not one but two of Diddy's mansions, dragging out crates of evidence, seizing not just the usual contraband, but piles of documents, mysterious black binders, and yes, the infamous Black Book. That's the phrase that keeps surfacing now, almost like a ghost story passed from journalist to journalist. The Black Book, the Pandora's box.
So let's talk about it, man. So you feel like it was bigger than Orlando shooter Pac. You feel like it's more to the story. You don't think it was that simple?
I feel like it's bigger because
What's in it? If you believe the whispers, this seized ledger isn't just a scrapbook of old contacts and faded phone numbers. Some say it contains years of coded entries, names linked to payouts, instructions for fixing problems that threaten to surface. Others claim it includes explicit references tying Diddy to a web of criminal activity far wider than anything previously suspected. Possibly even details of the $1 million bounty that former gang members say was offered for Shakur and Suge Knight, back in the days when East Coast-West Coast wasn't just a rivalry but an arms race. Former detectives and crime reporters who've seen court filings insist that Diddy's name comes up dozens of times in connection to those late-night Vegas streets, always just far enough from the gun, never quite within reach of the handcuffs. Now, as the legal case grinds on and the world watches the spectacle of Diddy's high-priced legal team squaring off against a lineup of prosecutors who've cut their teeth on mobsters and kingpins, the shadows outside Mopreme's door grow longer. Every missing witness, every cold lead, every sudden disappearance in this saga adds a new thread to the conspiracy. Is it paranoia if people really are after you? And what happens if that black book, whatever secrets it holds, gets into the hands of Mopreme's legal team? The stakes have never been higher, not just for Mopreme, but for the legacy of his brother, for the music world, for anyone who ever thought the truth might finally come out. And so we find ourselves here, with a grieving brother who refuses to back down, with a fallen mogul whose power seems undimmed by steel bars, and with the relentless question pulsing beneath the surface. What really happened on that hot Las Vegas night nearly 3 decades ago? And who's still willing to do whatever it takes to make sure the world never learns the full story? The rumor mill is running hotter than ever, and somewhere in the middle of it all, we're left wondering if the next headline will finally break the case wide open, or if the silence will descend once again like a shroud.
And that was to destroy East Coast rap. And what I mean by that, and I know people gonna be like, yo, Gene is out of his mind and everything like that. Check this out, brother.
The shockwaves of Mopreme's allegations have barely settled, but in the shadows, the bigger story starts to take shape. A tangled, sprawling network that makes one brother's personal crusade look like a single domino in a collapsing empire. Those who've tracked Diddy's rise through the 1990s know that his influence never came from music alone. The real power pulsed through those infamous freakoff parties, the kind of late-night gatherings whispered about by assistants, stylists, and more than a few up-and-coming rappers who suddenly decided to take their ambitions elsewhere. These weren't just wild after-hours affairs. Insiders, former security, a well-known PR manager, even a lawyer who later found religion, described them as controlled chaos, a place to forge alliances, settle scores, and make promises that couldn't be taken back. It's at these gatherings, sources claim, that Diddy built the scaffolding of his empire. Not just with bubbly and music deals, but with the kind of favors that turn into levers when the stakes get high.
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their...
We have to ask, could these parties have been more than just notorious spectacles? There's growing talk that they doubled as a clearinghouse for business arrangements, and not the kind that make it into press releases. When the freak-off tapes surfaced in court documents, prosecutors argued that the real purpose was control, leverage over anyone who might turn witness, and ironclad bonds with those willing to look the other way. As one former assistant put it, no one left those nights empty-handed, but some left with secrets that could burn the whole house down. In a business where everyone is supposed to know nothing, we're suddenly left wondering if Diddy's deepest loyalty wasn't to his friends, but to the silence he purchased with every favor exchange and every scandal carefully kept under wraps.
The guy's not here, and you gotta figure, we never met.
So you and Tupac never met. That was just...
So it's nothing personal.
It's this culture of secrets, alliances, and manufactured loyalty that brings us right back to the stormy heart of the 1990 East Coast versus West Coast, a rivalry that sold records and headlines, but in reality masked a much deeper, more cynical game. The feud wasn't just two record labels puffing up their chests. It was a chessboard with real players and devastating stakes. The world saw the headlines: Shakur shouting out his enemies, Biggie Smalls firing back, Diddy and Suge Knight orbiting each other like rival kings. But behind the bravado, what was actually happening? According to prosecutors, Diddy wasn't just reacting to a war, he was stoking it, positioning himself as the unseen hand moving the pieces. When Keefe D sat down for those secretly taped interviews, he didn't just point to random beef or bad luck. He claimed there was a bounty, not for show, but for results. In his words, I'll give anything for that dude head. It's not a direct order, but it's not far off, especially in a world where $1 million can turn rumors into blood on the pavement. Let's not kid ourselves about the size of the prize. At the height of this feud, the music industry was a gold rush. A #1 single wasn't just bragging rights. It was tens of millions of dollars, movie deals, brand launches, global recognition. In that world, one rival removed from the board could change everything. We look back now and see the magazine covers, the legends, but in the moment, power was the only goal. And if Mopreme is right, if Diddy was prepared to do whatever it took to maintain his grip, then Shakur may have been a pawn in a war far bigger than even he realized. It's the kind of suspicion that keeps the conspiracy theories alive, but this time, the old rumors are backed by court filings, witness confessions, and evidence that's finally outlasting the denials.
Now, why was he calling me?
The Black Book now sits at the heart of the mystery, like a ticking time bomb locked in an evidence room. We keep hearing whispers about what it contains: coded entries, odd payment records, names that have never appeared in any official report. Some claim it's a legend, a fantasy conjured by desperate attorneys, but more than one federal agent insists the book exists, seized during a raid, and currently under intense scrutiny from the same team that took down other powerful moguls. The worry is that, if the contents of this book go public, it could detonate the careers of artists, executives, and politicians alike. What if the book contains not just names, but detailed records of payouts, meetings, perhaps even cryptic references to the night Shakur's car was riddled with bullets on the Las Vegas Strip?
I always said, Keisha, I'm not going to live, past a certain time, or, I know I'm going to get shot up. He knew that. That was, the one thing that he did know.
We're forced to confront a chilling possibility. What if the truth isn't lost, but deliberately hidden? Over the years, every witness who tried to speak out has been silenced, discredited, or, most conveniently, vanished into obscurity. The missing witness in Diddy's current trial, known only as Victim 3, isn't the first to disappear right when it matters most. The record of intimidation and vanishing testimonies seems less like coincidence, more like the blueprint of a well-oiled machine. When prosecutors admit in open court they do not know whether she intends to appear, the message isn't subtle. It's a warning to anyone else thinking of coming forward. The machinery of silence is still grinding away, and the consequences for defiance are made all too real. The streets haven't forgotten either. As we dig deeper, we're reminded that justice in the hip-hop world has rarely come from police reports or legal filings. It comes from the stories people keep telling in studios, barbershops, and late-night Ubers. Even Suge Knight, now sitting behind bars himself, has said, "Why you think nobody been arrested if they said they the one that did it? 'Cause Shakur not gone. If he was, they'd be arresting those dudes for the act. He's somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar on an island. Is this just bravado, or is it a clever way to hint that the real story is still out there, waiting for someone to break the code of silence?"
Not surprised. We all know who he is and how we get down, so that don't surprise me.
And so Mopreme Shakur moves through his days in a kind of limbo, haunted not just by his brother's absence, but by the knowledge that he may be the last line of defense between the world and a truth that's always just out of reach. He's left to wonder which of the faces in the crowd is there to support him, and which is watching for their next opportunity to send a warning. Every missed call, every car that slows down as it passes his home, every unexplained delay in the investigation becomes another thread in the ever-tightening net of fear. Yet he continues, driven not by hope of closure, but by the simple need to make sure that, if he disappears, someone else will know where to look. The legal teams on both sides know that the clock is ticking. The courtrooms are full of familiar faces, high-powered attorneys, longtime associates, and a few celebrities whose names are carefully shielded behind NDAs and sealed files. With every new filing, every leaked transcript, the sense grows that something monumental is just beyond the horizon. Something that could blow open the quiet pact of silence that's ruled hip-hop for decades. Yet every time we think the story can't get darker, another twist emerges. The allegations multiply, the evidence grows, but the answers stay just out of reach.
If that's part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freakoffs. So that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you're gonna do it again. That ain't gonna make it with the government or nobody.
If the black book is as explosive as the rumors suggest, it could spell the end for more than one titan of the industry. We hear about payments to fixers, about coded references to insurance on certain artists, about phone calls routed through third and fourth parties. If true, it means the plot to silence Shakur may not have been a one-off, but part of a systematic strategy to control the narrative, protect profits, and erase anyone who threatened the flow of money and power. Some insiders whisper that Diddy's real genius wasn't in producing hits, but in mastering plausible deniability, always just far enough removed from the action to keep his fingerprints off the weapon, but close enough to pull the strings when needed. Now the world is watching for the next break in the case. Will the new investigation, backed by private detectives, high-profile attorneys, and a family with nothing left to lose, finally put the pieces together? Or will the black book disappear, another casualty of the machine designed to keep the truth locked away? As the stakes rise, we're left with the unnerving sense that Mopreme's struggle is about more than one brother's quest for justice. It's about the soul of hip-hop, the cost of silence, and the ugly reality that sometimes power wins not because it's right, but because it's ruthless enough to keep secrets at any cost. So now we turn to you. Are we about to witness the fall of a mastermind? The unmasking of the real architect behind one of the darkest nights in music history? Or is this story destined to join the list of unsolved scandals? One more secret buried in the vaults of the rich and powerful. Drop your theories, your questions, your wildest hunches in the comments below. And remember, in the world of celebrity secrets, nothing stays hidden forever. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep questioning, and don't let the silence fool you.